You are listening to a Nerd Room podcast production. We, the Nerd. Bunch of nerds.
We're Eternals. We came here 7,000 years ago to protect humans from the deviants.
Why didn't you guys help fight Thanos? Or any war, or all the other terrible things throughout history?
We were instructed not to interfere in any human conflicts unless deviants are involved.
By who?
Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 295 of the Nerd Room podcast, where we are hitting all things Eternal. I'm going to be your maestro for tonight, Carlos, and I'm joined by my two compatriots, Tim and Troy. But also, from the land of the rising sun, we have the newest member of the Nerd Room family, our boy Tokyo Joey. Ian, welcome, my friend.
Yo, thanks guys. Thank you for inviting me onto the team. And yeah, this is super exciting. I can't believe that I'm actually on the Nerd Room podcast, and I'm super happy, man. Like, hopefully I'll be on these shows as often as I can. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to sharing some positivity and maybe a little negativity with you today. Yeah, man.
Yeah, man, it's all good. And yeah, you just gotta be you. Give us your true self. That's why we brought you in. So it was a pretty funny conversation. It was a lot like asking Ian to join the podcast family. It was a lot like Ben Affleck's Batman asking Ezra Miller's Flash if he wants to be part of the Justice League. It's like, stop right there. I'm in.
Man, and what a show to be making your debut on. It's our first film review, week of film review, MCU film review, specifically since Far From Home. Since 2019, we have not done a weekend of release review for an MCU film.
Yeah, it's super exciting. I think he was, when you first invited me onto the show, he was a little scary just because such a big movie, such a big responsibility talking about this. So
Hey man,
we'll see how it goes.
it's all right. It's all right. This isn't Zack Snyder's Justice League. This is the Eternals. So, and just on that point, the Eternals. This thing is a powder keg of film as far as the discourse goes and all the conversations leading up to it and everything else. But yeah, why don't you fellas kind of let me know where your headspace was at heading into this one? And as I like to do, we'll take a little bit of that pressure off because it's like reining in those horses galloping towards that final opinion on the movie. So why don't you let me know where your head was at going into this one and just your high level thoughts after seeing it. 1 or 2 sentences. And you know what, Ian? Why don't you take the honors, man?
Well, I mean, going into the film, I think this was an unusual one, mainly because I think every other MCU movie that was coming up, I was super excited about seeing it, and something about this movie, I was just not at the same level. Like, I wasn't hyped about this movie. I don't know if it was down to how it was promoted or whether it's because I didn't really know much about the Eternals. So I wasn't really that pumped for this movie, and I couldn't really put my finger on it. But yeah, made sure that I watched it on day one. And yeah, I mean, I went in there, hearing from other people what they thought about it. And, I think you and me, Carlos, had a little talk. You'd seen it just before me. Mm-hmm. And that kind of brought me down to a certain level. So I kind of went in there with not many expectations. And yeah, after I watched it the first time, like, to be honest, I was kind of confused. Like, I knew I'd enjoyed the movie, but I didn't really know how I felt about it. It was kind of weird. Like, I was never bored, but I was never really emotionally invested in anything through the movie. So it was kind of an odd one. So it took me 2 watches. Like, I did have to go and watch it again. And then, yeah, my thoughts became a little clearer. And to be honest, I do think I enjoyed it more the second time. But at the same time, I do think it had its flaws. And I do have some criticisms at the same time.
Man, I love that. You basically encapsulated all that has been Twitter since Thursday night in that little review there. So to quote another Bruce, this podcast review is like a powder keg, and Tim is the match. So, Timbo, let me know where you were at before, during, and after on this one, man.
Well, you know where I was after. I was in Toys R Us looking for Eternals figures. No, so going into this one, like we had talked last week, I thought, this isn't my most anticipated MCU film of all time. That's reserved for your Cap films, for your Endgames, Infinity Wars. But this one I was intrigued about. I was actually quite pleased about the discourse because I thought that meant that this film was going to be different. It was going to subvert all of those expectations, and that's what people were upset about. It wasn't the Blueprint Marvel MCU film that we've come to love and enjoy, and that had me intrigued and a little bit excited. Going in, it was great because there's only 7 people in my theater when I went and saw it. So that helped me with my COVID anxieties. But when I walked out, I didn't have quite the same experience as Ian. Ian, just watching him describe this, he had this, to me, this perplexed look on his face. And almost that Last Jedi experience that I was worried about coming out of this, where it's like, I was supposed to love this, but I'm not quite sure where I stand. And I didn't quite have that experience. I walked out thinking, yes, I see the flaws here, but I do see the highlights, and I do see where the story was successful, but I can also acknowledge where maybe it falls down a little bit. Ultimately, if I want to undo that pressure a little bit, I have to say that I enjoyed this film, and I enjoyed the direction that it went, but it felt very much like a foundational film for something much bigger. And we'll, of course, get into that. And I think maybe that's potentially where it falters a little bit. It's telling a very large story, somewhat intimately, with a unique story construction, and it is building into a grander narrative of some sort. And that's where I'll leave that one.
All right, excellent. Troy, my man, you and I,
Sure.
we're always riding side saddle with each other, man. You can take it for yourself, or you can probably just give the thoughts for both of us, brother. But let me know where you were at before and then after this thing.
Yeah. So I think it's no secret. Anybody that's been listening for a little while, I haven't really been interested at all in this property. I don't know, man. Being a guy that's all about ensemble films or even just characters, when you have like the Avengers, the X-Men, the Ninja Turtles, the Fantastic Four, the Justice League, there's so many elements that I love of all those teams. And even in some ways, even in Humans, coming into the Eternals, though, I've never ever cared for this property. So I went in with expectations to just lower everything and just be wowed by the raving champ, the Oscar-winning director Chloe Zhao. See what she can do. I love the Game of Thrones actors. So I thought, okay, like this could be something good. And man, it wasn't horrible by any means. Like the 53, the 49% rating it got, I don't think that's very deserved, but man, this is nothing to brag home about. I just felt it was pretty mediocre. And I told Carlos, man, I mean, if you want Prometheus, order it off Wish and you got Eternals. I just I'm sorry, some of these shots, and I'm coming off of watching Dune. I like the scope of Dune was like, wow, look at this. And you know what Denis Villeneuve can do already, you know what Ridley Scott can do. And seeing some of these shots, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Your budget was probably bigger than all those films I just mentioned, and it still turned out flat. So that kind of lands on the director. But and the chemistry, man. I just talked about ensemble. We'll get into all this stuff, but I really felt like I didn't care at all for any of these eternal characters, beings, whatever you want to call them. There was maybe one that
there's two. I bet you there's two
by.
That when we talk about this,
Two,
I bet you there's two
yeah,
characters.
I
I bet you
was.
it's the
I
same
think
for
there was.
everyone that you actually gave.
Okay,
Yeah, me
okay,
too,
we'll
man.
see, we'll
guess.
see, we'll see, man. But I got no interest in seeing this again. Like Ian, I give you mad props for going in there 2 times, and all film's subjective. I mean, on the other end, people absolutely love this film, but for me, this is definitely a one and done. Not Shazam level. I won't ever bash it at that level, but it's a one and done. And wipe my hands clean from this film.
Come on,
Yeah,
Troy.
it didn't look like it was filmed in Toronto, but man, you did totally do it. You basically gave the high level thoughts for both of us.
But Carlos, I got to
just-
ask one question here. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but Troy, you got to give your proper review here, man. It was the best review I've ever heard. One liner. This should be on the front box of the Steelbook. Troy, what did you say in the DM about this film? What was your exact quote coming out of the theater?
Yeah, I think I said I came out of the theater. You guys hit you in the DM, and I said it's the most okay MCU film of all time. That's where it sits.
My favorite.
Yeah, and I gotta echo a lot of what my boy said. Like that's kind of where I felt. I think I was a little more excited to see where this was going to come from, with a break from. We had heard that it was going to be a break from the formula of the MCU, and while I didn't like No Man's Land at all, I do think that Chloe Zhao is a very interesting director, so I was hopeful to see what she would bring. But yeah, like I said, Troy said it all for me. But if I was going to give a one sentence review of this thing, it's like the Chloe Zhao parts were inspired, and the Marvel Studios bits were kind of tired. You could tell that this was much like the Eternals, where this is a product of two worlds, and where there's two kind of competing visions and approaches to it, and you end up with something that is maybe not as good as it could have been had they just kind of gone one way entirely or another way. But it is what it is. So we touch on a few things there as far as the reception to this goes. So I think we're going to actually bring this into the review. It's something that I don't typically like to do, but it's been such a huge, like a massive part of the conversation before the movie even got released. Like that Rotten Tomatoes score, that thing was like Erisham showing up in the sky and blocking out the sun, because it enveloped everything to do with this movie. So when I checked last night as I was doing up the notes for the show, it was sitting at a 48% critical score on Rotten Tomatoes. And, it had the 81% audience score, but that's like a locked score. And you got to think that's going to be all your highly invested people that are going to actually log in, write a review for it, and off you go, right? So you get those people that are super invested in popping up the MCU, and you'll get those people that are just ready to sharpen their knives and cut it down type of thing. So I don't really hold too much stock in an audience score until after like 18 months when people have viewed it on their own time and are reviewing it without any kind of agendas. But the one that was interesting to me was that it had a B cinema score. So the B cinema score is actually the lowest cinema score in the MCU. And just with the way the cinema score works, for anybody that's not familiar with it, is that they will randomly poll audiences opening day. They give people a card, and the card asks, like, is this something that you would buy on home video? Is it something you'd rent? Would you recommend it? Is the marketing effective, I think, is another one. And then you give it a a score. And generally, for any kind of big franchise IP type movie, any variation of an A is good. Obviously, an A plus, which is something like a Black Panther would get, is what you're aiming for. And you've got a surefire hit that's going to set the world on fire. A is excellent. A minus is still pretty good. And then the B's, you're starting to get shaky. Like a B plus is something that like I can't even remember what, I think Thor got
Venom
a B plus.
was a B plus.
Yeah, and Venom was a B plus. But like with a B, you don't really know what you're gonna get. Like the two that stuck out for me with a B was like Green Lantern and Batman vs Superman got B's, and we kind of saw what the audience reception to those was. But and the reason that those scores go that way is your opening night audience is going to be your most enthusiastic, your most invested audience in these types of movies, right? And so that metric will change depending on the genre, but that's basically what the mindset is and what they assess when looking at the cinema score for these types of movies. So, it had a pretty banger of an opening weekend, 71 million domestic box office, which is a little less than Shang-Chi. But what do you guys think? Like, as far as the Rotten Tomatoes scores and the cinema score and even its opening weekend box office? And I'll kick this one off. I'll be honest, like, I'm pretty shocked at the Rotten Tomatoes score because there's a pile of movies in the MCU that I think deserve rotten scores, and I'm flabbergasted that this is the one that actually got a rotten score. Just comparing it against other films in the genre, I truly do not understand how something like Ant-Man and the Wasp would get a positive score, but yet the Eternals, which actually tried some stuff and had a lot of artistic merit to it, would end up where it is at the hands of the critics. But is what it is, and it'll be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out into the future. But yeah, Timbo, you've got the highest investment in this, man. You're like you're just about chewing on that mic. If we had the video up with this podcast, it's hilarious. But man, let me know your thoughts on this one.
It's hard for me sometimes to play color commentator on these podcasts, not just barge my way into conversations.
I know, man. I feel like Batman in that trailer, just walking through the bullets.
No, but when I look at these scores, and I know we talk about Rotten Tomatoes, we did last week, and it is something that we used to gauge relatively where films go. But I agree with you in your sentiments there. When you look at this score and this movie, and I fully agree with Troy's assessment, this is like a middle of the pack MCU. This should be in your like mid to low 70s, maybe. I don't know. But it, to me, the effect of Rotten Tomatoes, it just felt like a dog pile at some point. That it was almost an opportunity for critics to say, no, I don't support everything MCU. Look, I gave this a bad score, because this thing continuing to tumble throughout all of the additional critical reviews going into this, it just felt like it was, I don't know why it's continuing to fall in this direction, which I don't know if it's like a score aggregate, like you give it like a 7 out of 10, and then a whole bunch of people have to give it a 2 or a 3 for it to pull down that average like that.
No, so the way it works is that we'll review it. So all 4 of us will review it, and we will each give our score. And our score is honestly irrelevant to what the tomato meter, quote unquote, is.
Okay.
What happens is after you finish your review and your scoring, you then, with a binary selection, you choose either to rate the movie as rotten or as positive. It's always interesting. I read a few reviews and they're kind of skewed semi-positive, but people would rate them rotten. Or there was reviews that were clearly the person did not like the movie, but they still rated it positively. But that is how that tomato meter is generated. It's not, 7s and 2s.
So it's like a binary thing. It's a black and white thing.
Yeah. So if you're a certified critic, you choose whether your review is positive or fresh or rotten, and then that's what they.
And so it'll pull down the average the more and more rotten reviews you get. So you're having to have, like, for every positive, you're having to have like 3 or 4 rotten reviews going in there to continue to pull down that average to that like sub 50 place. And so this is where I feel like it's just like, let's pile onto this thing. And this is where sometimes maybe those critical reviews, especially the ones that come out within the following week or 3 or 4 days after, I don't know how much you can actually trust any of it, to be honest with you, because it was like Batman vs Superman, right? It was like watching the bottom fall out of that. Like, I don't like that movie, but like 27%, like that's wild. And that just kept falling through the weekend. And so I think the thing I would like to highlight is that go see the film for yourself. Like, when you look at the cinema scores, like, everything's a B, unless it's like an A+ or whatever. And then this, it's just, it's definitely not in this sub 50% category, and it's definitely not the worst film in the history of the MCU. That is for sure. And so it's I don't know what it is about this. If it just, everyone swings towards a direction. You see this on the internet all the time, right? It's like, let's pile on this thing, and everyone piles that direction, and then that's just the way it goes. But at the same time, this generated an absolute mountain of discussion online. Maybe not always positive discussion, but people have not stopped talking about this film.
Yeah. No, and like I said, I'm probably most surprised at the cinema score, because it is just people being pulled out of theaters in like whatever cities that they do it in, kind of thing. So there might be something to it. The dichotomy was funny, because on my left side, I had a young lady who was obviously very invested and loving every minute of it. And on my right side, I had my daughter, who was the same age as this young lady, who like was viscerally angry. In fact, she quasi yelled at me because we were walking out of the theater, and she saw the poster for Last Night in Soho, and Sunny was tweeting about going to Last Night in Soho, and she's like, "We could have been seeing that." And I was like, "Well, why don't you go live with Sanjay?"
Where is that guy?
Absorbing cinema. So,
Yeah. Well said. Yes.
Ian, my man, what do you think of all the discourse and scoring and all that kind of stuff? And like I said, it's not something we typically spend a
Yeah.
lot of time on, but it's just such a massive part of the conversation with this movie.
Yeah, I think you guys have touched on a lot of good points. I mean, I think there's other things in play here. Like, I totally don't agree with that score, and I think it is pretty ridiculous. I often look at like Metacritic as a website, and even they're on a 52, and they go with, you know, positive and like mixed reviews. And yeah, it seems weird. Like, I think there are a lot of people who do jump on the bandwagon and start to go, you know, either really like or really don't like. And then I think as well, like, these reviewers, they work for these websites and stuff, and they're getting so much attention from this movie. And, you know, you look at the comments on Twitter for all these different places, on these different sites, and they give a negative review, and all these people are bashing it. And I think, you know, sometimes people just like to complain about stuff sometimes. And, you know, especially with something like the MCU, where everything's been super positive. And because it's something so different, like, people probably went into this movie expecting to just have a good time and have fun with it, and, you know, it kind of threw them off a little. And there's a lot of different things in this movie. Like, there could be things about it that just people just don't connect with, or, you know, the fact that it has such a diverse cast, and people might think that that was forced, or I don't know. People just seem to like nitpick and find things. And you know, I look at a lot of these reviews, and I do feel like there's something really weird going on. I don't think it's justified. I mean, I watched, what was it, Army of Thieves on Netflix the other day, and that's got like 70 something, man. And like, that film, like, I could not stand that film, man. Like, I sat through it, but that was terrible. And then I watched Finch, the new Tom Hanks movie, the other day, and that's like in the 70s. And I'm like, well, this is like, you know, it's got one actor in the whole movie, and not much happened, and it's like mid 70s. And Eternals, you know, it does a lot of good things, and it's got a lot of interesting parts, and it tries some new things, and it deserves a lot more praise than I think it's getting. I just don't know how reviewers approach reviews these days. You know, what are they actually looking for?
Click.
And is it click? Yeah, exactly. That's probably what it is. So yeah, I mean, like, I think it's pretty stupid. And when you do look at some of the comments, especially in the audience reviews, you just like someone giving a review a 0, like a movie a 0. You can't, like, a 0, like, what, because you didn't like one part of the movie, you give it a 0? It's a weird one. And yeah, I mean, like, you're saying like funny stories about people next to you. I went to the toilet after watching that movie, and there was a guy waiting behind me, and he's like, he was speaking Japanese, but he was asking where Thanos was. And I'm just like, you know, these are the people who go to watch these movies. Like, I was actually really surprised. I went on day one, and it was super hard to get tickets. And like, the audience were a weird group. Like, you know, there were middle-aged housewives and, you know, all these trendy kids going in. And I don't think people really knew what they were expecting. And I think it could be, you know, the same everywhere. Like, people went in expecting one thing, and because they got something very different, it might have affected their impression of the movie. I mean, like, you made a good point earlier. I think Troy was saying coming off Dune, like, it's the same. Like, I was even making that comparison, and I thought, like, aesthetically it was going to look very similar. And because it didn't, and you know that there was a lot of money behind this, and you knew the creatives behind this, even I was making those comparisons. And with Dune being such an amazing, such an immersive experience, and me watching it so recently, I think that also would have affected people's opinions of the movie.
That was the most shocking part for me.
Yeah,
was the scope. I thought this was going to be this humongous film, and there's parts that feel like it was filmed in a box.
Oh,
Yeah.
you could see the volume.
Yeah.
Like, you were.
Yes.
I could imagine the cast of The Mandalorian just waiting outside the door so that they could come on and do their stuff
Yeah.
once their filming time was done. Troy, how about
Yes,
you,
sir.
man? I know you were kind of on the same page where it's like, yeah, I don't love this
Yeah.
movie, but I don't think it's deserving of the flogging that it's getting. But yeah, where do you
Yeah.
fall on all this, man?
Yeah, no, I echo a lot of your guys' thoughts, but I also think like we can't just say like we can't just play victim here for Marvel because we've seen this on so many other movies.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
come on, like DC gets their butts beaten so many times and nobody says anything. So I'm gonna put that out there. But honestly, I feel like I go back to her winning. Like Zoe Clow won Best Director last year. I think there's a lot of pressure on. I think a lot of the critical eye was looking at her and being like, there's been big talk from Marvel Studios being like, this movie's gonna be something huge. You got Chloe Zhao, you know, you got your Phil Jackson right now doing this movie. Bring it. Like, let's see what you're gonna do. And I think honestly, they saw his film and they're like, that's it.
That's
Like,
a great
sorry,
point,
like,
man.
I you know what I mean? I don't think they're ranking. Like, you look at the let's go back to like, was it Winter Soldier or Civil War? Winter Soldier was the Russo brothers,
Both,
right?
but yeah, Winter
Civil
Soldier was
War.
first.
Both,
yeah.
right? Is both of them. But their
Yeah.
debut was Winter Soldier,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of people are laughing because these guys wrote, was it Community? Did they do
Community.
Yes.
The paintball episode is the one
Yeah.
that got them Winter Soldier. Funny enough.
Right. So people were like, these guys writing Community are going to be doing Captain America, and is reverse of this, right? They went in and they absolutely killed it. Whereas here and now we have somebody like Chloe Zhao that did something incredible with Nomad. I'd never seen the movie, but obviously it won something, so obviously it's a big deal. And then she went in here, and they're just like, yeah, like it's not really jiving for us. So in some ways, I feel like it's just as simple as that. The expectations were high, the talk was there, and I don't think the movie necessarily
When it's
delivered.
maybe to your point there, Troy, the critical expectations were high. Not even so much the audience
Mhm.
expectations. It was like,
Exactly.
and I think she had filmed this prior to winning that Oscar, correct? So it wasn't like Marvel
Yeah.
went out and got her because she won an Oscar, right? This was all part of
Yeah.
a larger design in this. And so there might be some of that, like you're saying, that legacy of her winning that and that expectation for this to be like this massive standout MCU film. And in
Mhm.
construction it's different, but it doesn't stand out amongst the crowd as much as maybe people were hoping or expecting at a critical level.
Yeah. Well, and let's get into that then. The construction of the film. And I think that this is where the movie really suffers and where people struggled with it. So we have the Eternals that we learn are deployed by the Celestials to fight the Deviants because reasons. And so we have our 10 Eternals and they are deployed, and then all of a sudden they are no longer together. And basically the construction of the movie is the group of the few Eternals having the Deviants come back again, and then this kind of cross Earth road trip as they're recruiting the former members of their team. And it's spearheaded obviously by Gemma Chan Cersei and Richards Madden's Icarus and the young lady that plays Sprite there. But yeah, Troy, man, did you think that the construction of this thing worked to the benefit of the movie? And where did it thrive and where did it struggle for you?
Yeah, so the construction for me, I guess like the flow and the pacing was kind of off for me. I guess the flashbacks, the back and forth, kind of took me out of the film sometimes. 'Cause sometimes I was lost. I'm like, are we in present day or are we back in time? So that kind of didn't necessarily work for me. And then the whole switcheroo. So I kind of like what they started to do, at least what they established with the Deviants.
Deviants.
Deviants, sorry. The Deviants, and then you have obviously the Eternals, and then you have the Celestials. And I gotta say, the Celestials looked great. I thought they did I think all the budget went to those guys. I think they looked absolutely stunning. But that kind of stuff worked for me. But there was some weird kind of pacing issues throughout the film. And again, like I hate doing this, but I'm coming off of Dune, which was just it was pretty well done. It was pretty well done. So when I came into this, it was a little choppier. So and this is coming from somebody that doesn't really know the whole lore of the Eternals. But I was like at the end of the day, kind of like I kind of thought the Deviants or the Eternals were kind of pointless. Like you only needed one
Exactly.
of them to serve the actual
100%
purpose
agree with you, man.
of the Celestials. So I thought that was kind of weird. And I don't know if that's how it is in the comics. I do know the Deviants exist. I know the Eternals exist. I think the Eternals are actually like humans that have been worked on, as opposed to like these are more like droids in the movies. So
Yeah.
these Eternals in the movies are a little different. But I just felt like like you didn't really need one or the other.
You could have realistically used the Deviants as the catalyst for needing the Eternals, because they explain that later on, right? That they went off and evolved and they got out of control, and we needed the Eternals to basically come in and wipe them out. But then that should have been it. Like, I don't think resurrecting them later on and having them be a false villain throughout this was necessary. It took away too much time to do other things. Like the fact that it was a one note climate change, ice melted, deviants are back type thing. Like, it didn't even have anything to do really with the emergence. And so it was in the core or whatever, the main guy that was, again, you need something to bash up, but I agree with you, man. They did not need the deviants in the second or third act of the film.
Well, and to your point, and I'm going to throw this to Ian and Tim, because I think that whole plot device, which was the core to the construction of the film, was flawed in its conceit. Because if you have your Celestials that are these all-powerful, all-controlling beings, and they deploy the deviants for reasons, and then they deploy the Eternals to fight the deviants for reasons. If you have these all-powerful Celestials that basically create the universe, is what you're telling me, why wouldn't they're like, oh shoot, we messed up, let's just erase everything and start all over again, because we got these deviants. And you didn't have a reason for the deviants, and then you kind of never needed the Eternals.
I took the deviants as being
got lost in the sauce.
Yeah, and I took the deviants as being, again, this might have been lost in dialogue, but they were essentially like, let's set these things loose to kill everything on the planet so that we can seed it for intelligent life, is what we need to essentially drive the engine of the Celestial, right? And then those things, for whatever reason, didn't work. But yeah, again, you come up against the fact that you have this Celestial, this being in the sky, this all-knowing thing, or device almost, and they can't control that one aspect of it. So yeah, there's a little bit of construction issue in that. Like, that's probably the most difficult through line. And with the construction and all that, like, I liked it, to be honest with you. I liked this puzzle that's coming together as you're watching it. So you're finding things out at the pace of the film instead of being in the know a little bit more. But where it suffers for me is they try to hold so much back. Even though they're dumping constant amount of dialogue, they try to hold so much back to surprise you and to twist you later on. Be like, oh, here's a reveal you didn't know about. Here's a reveal you didn't know about. And that, to me, pulls the plot, or the whole thing suffers because of that. So you don't get a lot of this earned aspects of what they're revealing, because they didn't tell you enough to earn it. They told you just enough to make you feel surprised, say when Icarus turns or whatever, right? Like, that kind of came out of nowhere and it surprised me. But when you look back on it, it's like, wow, the story construction probably could have went in a way where it at least alluded to that more, or that they had a fallen brother that went that way. And you know what I mean? Like, there's pieces of the plot that they could have used to allude to the fact that an Eternal can go rogue, or that Eternals are so beholden to the Celestial and they cannot move. And I understand that there's aspects that they don't know this and all that, but in all the work that the plot does in construction about going back and dumping information, and then going forward, progressing, going back, dumping information, they use all of these flashbacks as way to bring you up to speed as to what's going on in present day. And like, this is the first MCU film that starts with a Star Wars scroll too, right? With all these big words. And so I can see where the GA loses that a little bit, right? You read this first couple, there's like 3 paragraphs you have to read to start this film off, right? And so you're immediately thrown into the deep end of cosmic wildness. And if you've never even picked up a comic book in the cosmic end of things, this is hard. And I see why they did the story like this, but at the same time, I can see its flaws. Like, I personally liked this puzzle being put together in front of me, but I see where it suffers.
All right, Ian, man, I'm throwing it to you, brother, because I know I know you saw some plot holes, and I'm gonna go off, I think. But let's throw to you first, baby.
Yeah, man. I don't know how long is this podcast? How long can we talk for? I mean, like, I think this is where the film falters a bit, man. Like, I think the second time I watched it, I kind of let a lot of these things slide, and then I definitely enjoyed it a lot more. But yeah, like, just down with the deviants, like, I just didn't really get that. Like, the deviants get sent down to to make sure to kill all these creatures so intelligent life can progress. But then what it is the deviants learn that they're basically being sent to their death. They learn that, you know, the Celestial's going to break out, and basically they wiping out intelligent life. So in the end, they're kind of doing what the Eternals are doing. Like, you know, at the end, the deviants are trying to save the planet in the end.
Yes.
And you know, like Crow comes and he starts fighting Icarus, and they're like, "Why are you saving Crow?" And you get this really basic explanation, and you know, Jodie kills him, and it's like, well, hold on, that dude's like on your side, like he's trying to help you out, like he's only trying to survive, like he's been sent to his death, and I guess, you know, there's the whole ideas against the humans, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff like you guys were saying about, you know, the Celestials and they're creating life. Man, the Eternals are worse than the Deviants. They gave the Eternals free will. Like, why would you give the Eternals free will? Like, why wouldn't you just make these mindless robots or these guys go down and say, just make sure intelligent life lives? But yet he gives them free will, and it gives them the option to turn against them. And then you've kind of got, you know, man, like it doesn't make any sense to me, because he tells, you know, Arishem, he tells them the plot, like the plan.
Yeah.
Like, why does he go through this whole thing where he tells the lead Eternal what the plan is?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of, you know, when he tells Cersei that plan, Cersei's just like, she's crying because she's been on the planet for 7,000 years or whatever. And it's like, why does he just not tell them the plan? Like, you know, why doesn't he just keep that secret, and then everything would work out fine?
Yeah, for a guy that big,
So yeah,
not that smart.
and then you're talking about like things that aren't earned. Like that was a biggie for me. Like, I think the whole idea of the turn is that they're, you know, they care about the humans, right?
Mhm.
And you never see that. Like, the movie never gives us any time with the Eternals interacting with the humans. And that's something you do see in a lot of other MCU movies or even the DC movies, like, but you just don't see their relationship. You only see Cersei and Kit Harington, his character, in a relationship. You know, the fast girl, what's her name, Makari?
Yeah.
Like, she's in the spaceship for thousands of years or whatever, so she never even hangs out with the humans, and yet she fights for them. So it's kind of like, it makes me question, in the past, why have they let the planets be destroyed every single time? Are you saying that on every other planet, intelligent life has never been friendly and loved and laughed like Salma Hayek says? And it kind of raises all these questions for me. It's kind of like, I don't really get, I never feel like they're fighting for anything, because you never get to see, it's not earned. You don't ever get to see them spending time with the humans and loving the humans. You only get to hear them say it. You know, Cersei's the one who's supposed to love the humans the most, but like, no offense to the actress, but she shows like zero emotion through that whole movie. Like, her face never changes expression for that whole movie.
She was like Steven Seagal, man. Like, come on. Give me some emotion.
So, like, I did have issues with that. But as I said, like, I let that go the second time. And I think when you watch it the second time, there were things I did pick up on. Like, what was Salma Hayek's character's name? Ajak. Yeah. So, Ajak, Salma Hayek starts to have doubts. And I think the idea is that she lets them go out and experience life. And maybe that's never happened before. And I think that's why they all start to doubt what's going on.
That was my takeaway.
Yeah, but they kind of established before that, right? Like, right from the get-go, where Cersei is making the crops, and then they're making like the bread with the kids and braiding hair and all that stuff. Like, that's thousands of years before they have, because Ajak lets them go out because of the Athena getting the mad weary, right? Like, which was actually the thing I thought was the coolest in the movie, was their kind of take on Eternal's dementia. And I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing that we've never seen before. And so I like that through line. But yeah, and just to kind of build on what you and Troy were saying, like, for me, I think the whole movie would have been better. And I think this is truly where that Chloe Zhao versus the Marvel Machine kind of came to clash, the whole movie would have been so much better if the deviants weren't even in it.
Yep.
And
Yes.
if the Eternals were deployed to Earth to make sure that the humans evolve so that the mind energy grows the celestial in the planet type of thing. And if from the outset we knew that this was their mission, and then you get to see them through the years falling in and out of love with humanity. And I think you have more interesting and more dynamic character work that you can play with, where you have Cersei who really falls in love with the minutia of what human beings and humanity is all about, and then you have Druig seeing the terror that we can inflict on each other, and you have Phastos seeing the grand things that humanity can accomplish when he gives them little bits of technology, and then the horrors that they can inflict, and then it all building to them having this battle with each other about whether or not they should fulfill their mission that the Celestials has sent them on. But because of this mandate to have like these punchy things in the middle of the movie all the time, you do two things. Number one, you kill the agency of all 10 of your Eternals. And number two, you add massive amounts to the runtime of this movie because you've got to inject the deviant stuff into it. But then you also have your director feeling it's important to do the character work. And so, like, even if you just had like something stupid like the Chitauri trying to attack Earth the whole time or something like that, just so you can have your action sequences, or some other kind of invasion, or even you have the Celestials sending other Eternals to kind of pick up the pace with growing the Eternal inside of Earth, and that's who they're fighting type of thing, right? Like, I think there was a way better way to do it, but to give your director the ability to tell, you could tell she really wanted to tell a story about the value of humanity.
Yep.
And then
But that's why maybe I would go the opposite direction, though, right? I would just make the whole movie about the deviants.
yeah,
Like I actually liked Crow, and I thought he was kind of interesting because his motives weren't exactly evil at the end.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like I would have made a movie where the cliffhanger at the end is the fact that the deviants were trying to stop the Celestial breaking out. Like I don't know, it felt like they rushed to this ending of this this Celestial. Whereas I would have liked a movie where the whole movie was a Chloe Zhao movie where it's just about the Eternals mingling with humans over time.
yeah,
And they have this threat of these deviants, but they learn through this main deviant who gains this intelligence that, you know, his purpose, his goal.
Yeah.
And the movie ends with them like, oh no, we've just killed all these deviants and now we've got this Celestial coming out. And I think then the next movie could have been a whole movie about them trying to stop, because for me the third part of the movie, the final act was the biggest mess.
Well, it's
Garbage, yeah.
because
was
you have to
insane.
rush so much at the end there, right? Because I think to much to all your points, and I don't disagree with anything that's being said, and I'm always going to be softer on these movies, but when you look at characters like Phastos and Druig, who I think are the two most fascinating characters that did not get nearly enough time on screen, they're not like the two I was talking about earlier was Druig and Makari. I think that that was wonderful, the story they told there. But Druig, to me, is the key to all this, and they do not use him enough, right? He is the first one to descend into, no, I'm not doing this anymore, right? And they never really play with that much. And that's, I guess, essentially what leads them to being let go and to experience life on their own. But then they never pick up a lot of that. And then also Phastos, him seeding this to increase the pace of evolution and technology, and him unknowingly as eventually leading to this being the power, the energy that surges to life, the Celestial. I think that's a really cool plot point as well. But
But don't you think that's a weird plot point though? For me, like that was another one. Like Phastos creates technology to advance the humans, but they keep telling him to slow down.
yeah.
Why not tell him to speed up? Like,
well, I think it's like
hurry
that,
up, give them all the tech. Because if you give them medicine immediately, then the population booms, and he's like, then the Celestial can come out. But it's like they're like telling him to slow down, and I'm like, I don't, because I love Fast Stuff. I loved his character, but I'm just like, why? What is his purpose? Like, why are they telling him to not evolve too quickly?
It's
whereas
and it's just, I
Man,
think it's
that's
this
a
muddled message
wonderful
of free
point.
will and all this, right? Like we can't interfere. But there's a weird quote in one of the trailers I went back and watched that says, "We have not interfered until now." But in the previous line, it says, "We give them technology," right? And it's
Yeah, that's it.
it's
That's
so
what I
it's
thought,
kind of
yeah.
this conflicting idea of how much free will do we let have for evolution to take place, but we're also kind of like feeding it in the background because we have this guy that makes machines.
But the reality is
And-
that
and they-
so much of that is just gymnastics because they have to explain why these super powerful characters were hanging out while all this other MCU stuff played out that we've
Yeah.
watched, right? So that's kind of where you get caught. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Ian, but it's just like,
No, I'm saying like it's the same thing. I'm repeating the same thing. But it's like even the Thanos thing. I thought, okay, so the Thanos explanation is quite clever. You know, they can't interfere, and they want them to learn through themselves and through failure, and that's how they develop. But hold on, Thanos was going to wipe out half the population, which is totally against
the
what you
Eternals
want
mandate.
because you need the population. He was going to wipe out the whole population at the end of Endgame. So surely their main directive should be stop Thanos, because if Thanos succeeds, there's no Celestial. So I was kind of like,
I feel
again,
you,
it's
man.
kind of
I feel that. And can I touch on there for a sec? Because I totally feel your point. This is kind of sidetracked, but going off the Eternals too, like, was I the only one that felt like they weren't even like that powerful? Like, honestly, I feel like at the end of the day, like the Avengers could have probably even stopped these guys. I didn't get a sense of these guys are like the almighty Justice League powerful heroes. I kind of felt like they were kind of getting handed by the Deviants
Yeah.
a lot of times, and I was
Yeah.
just like, these guys aren't really.
Well, man, the one got
Anything.
taken out by getting hit on the head with a rock. So
Oh,
Yeah,
but that
like-
was
like-
another thing I said to Tim. Like, it's just what were their power sets? What were
Yeah.
like, you know, at the start of the movie, they're getting cut up by the Deviants, but then later they're getting smashed through buildings and there's not a scratch. You know, they needed Salma Hayek at the start, but then when she's dead, they don't need her anymore. And it's like, what were their abilities? Because Sylvie, is it Sylvie? No, Sprite. Sorry, Sprite stabs Cersei in the back, so she can stab her with a knife. But like then she gets hit with a rock and gets knocked out. Like I was just like, this is a bit weird. Like
She's
what
inconsistent.
what abilities do people
Well,
have?
that's just the power of convenience, right? It's just a trope in here. It's unfortunate, right? That you
Yeah.
have all these power sets, and like at the start, they're making pretty good work of the deviants, and then they continue to struggle with them more and more as the movie progresses, and as a convenient needs a epic at the end or a climax, right? Fight, and like to the point again, coming back to the deviants. I don't mean to circle back here, but would have been cool a movie without a villain, right? Without a punchy villain.
Or you just had the fallout of the team. and,
Exactly.
Yeah, Icaros being your bad guy or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Troy, my man, what
Yes,
did
sir.
you think? So we've kind of got there and we've started talking about the larger MCU and about the Thanos question, the Thanos imperative, if you will, and kind of what the audience likes and wants, and then the problems that you then face with the perpetual escalation of things and getting to the point where now we have these Celestials. What did you think? What do you think about that as a whole? What did you think about Arishem the Judge and the Celestials, and like over and above, like because I thought they looked killer, but just like the issues that poses, and then like where do you go from here, and what does that leave you with, and is it a good idea, this perpetual escalation? Because I'll tell you right now, like I literally had the moment where I thought, I love Sam Wilson, Captain America. He doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. When you have this going on, that guy doesn't matter. And I was longing to be back in Louisiana with Buck, just fixing the boat and off we go kind of thing. I literally had that thought in the middle of the movie. We're in the middle of space,
Yeah.
and I was like, I want to be with Sam on the fishing boat, man. I just want some shrimp. Well, how about you, brother? Like,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah, you know, with the Celestials, I gotta say too, I really thought as a cool wink, the Celestial that kind of rose in like the Arctic there or whatever towards the end.
Mhm.
That shot was really cool because it reminded me of like the new Avengers Tower in
Oh, yeah.
Jason Aaron's run. So I thought that was like a
For
cool
sure.
like nod. I was like, oh man, you know. But like I mentioned, the Celestials I thought looked awesome, and I think they set the tone for like how powerful they can be. But at the same time, this isn't the first time we've seen a Celestial. Like, look at Ego, the planet. Like, the Guardians took that guy out, and he's essentially a Celestial himself, right? So we do obviously see like the chip in their armor and how they can be taken down even by a team like the Guardians, and even by this weird, I don't know, like episode 9 power attack move that they do at the end, this Voltron weird mind control thing to take down this is just so weird. But what this does for me and what has me excited is I want to see a Galactus. I like the scale of this guy, of these Celestials, to see a Galactus, to see Silver Surfer going to these different planets and pan picking them for Galactus to take down, and for him to do like a real proper true Eternals of what they're trying to do, and have was it Norrin Rad, I think, that plays Silver Surfer, to have him question his motives and remember, like, wait, like, this isn't right. I gotta turn on my master. I can't keep feeding these planets to this guy. Like, that's what I'm most excited for, and I hope this was kind of like they found their footing after this film going forward to be like, this is what we can do and this is what we can do. Because the Celestials have always been kind of neat, but at the end of the day, you always want to get to Galactus. It's like the Celestials are like, they're okay, but you just want to get to Galactus. That's like the legit big threat. You know, going off of heroes that could defeat these guys, I mean, yeah, it'd be a little weird to see obviously Falcon take one of these guys down, or even his team. But when I think of like WandaVision or Wanda, and I think of Vision, and I think of Captain Marvel, I feel like Captain Marvel could have taken down the whole Eternals with one hand. Like, I didn't really feel like these guys had anything on her. So I think the MCU is already equipped to take down these kind of villains, and they just did something here in this film to kind of get us away from characters that we love and introduce us to characters that don't really have much going for themselves. Yeah, man, I guess, long story short, I'm just excited for what's next going forward, because we do get a nice little cliffhanger kind of at the end. Actually, there's a way better cliffhanger at the end. I'm not even talking about the first credit scene. I'm talking about the last credit scene. That's where it's at. That was like, this is like Venom Part 2. Like, the best after credit scene makes the film a lot better, right? So
yeah,
we'll get there.
It's true. And man, your point about Galactus, one of the other thoughts I had was when Arishem shows up and he's in the sky during like a clear blue sky day, and they see him there. I was like, that's cool, but how much cooler would it be if the first time we had that type of visual was with Galactus, right?
Yes.
And
yes,
like this movie,
I thought it was him when he came.
I know.
I thought that was him,
man. And so there's just so many things that I was like, we've robbed ourselves of all these great moments with this kind of mid and middling movie. And yeah, I don't know. It was a bit frustrating, because it's just like you can see the great story if they don't try and do too much, and then you can see what they build to, where you have that Cap finally picks up the hammer moment with the first time you see a Celestial in an Earth context is when Galactus's very distinct helmet shows up on the horizon, right? And
even when he speaks, Arishem, when he speaks at the end there, like, that sounded like to me what something Galactus would say. I'll be back to judge. And it was, yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think that they set the stage for Galactus now to be in his true form. He doesn't have to be in his cloud or grounded or anything like that. And maybe Galactus is out there chasing down these planets that have Celestials inside of them, and maybe that's what he feeds off of. I don't know. And so you end up with some like big battle or something at the end there. But to your point about escalation, Carlos, I just want to touch on this because it's something that I'm always thinking about in the MCU, right? They're always looking to outdo themselves. And we're into now this rapid progression of escalation, because we spent 23 movies or whatever it was building towards like this epic crescendo of a story, the Infinity Saga, that blew everyone away and everyone was so heavily invested in. And I thought they were going to through line this and say, we're going to pick our next Infinity Saga. And I thought it was going to be time. I thought that was going to be the big bad, effectively. It would be the Time Saga or whatever, right? And now it seems that they're building 3 different massive avenues, like the celestial cosmic piece. They're building the time component, and they're building the mysticism and magic side of things. And do these eventually cross over? Because your economies of scale are like way out of whack right now. In the fact that you have these huge stories that are being told, you have the multiverse in the mix, And then on the side, you have the mysticism, this stuff about, maybe the Black Knight and all this is going on over here, Wanda, Doctor Strange and all that, and how that crosses over. And so we've gotten to the point where there was a continuous narrative that was being spun, weaving in and out of these films that were progressively different, introduced different characters, but ultimately were driving towards a very similar thing that was 6 stones that we all kind of got, right? And they explained it. It was simple. These things are powerful. They can do X, Y, and Z. And now we're in a spot where the MCU is just grown exponentially inside of 2021. And it's introduced so many new concepts that it is going to get hard, I think, to keep track of what is going on. And the next movie we're going to watch is going to make that infinitely more difficult because of what it likely or could introduce. And so they're playing with a bit of fire here and introducing a lot of major big concepts. Like even the Guardians introduced space for the first time and really blew open the doors of what the universe was. It was pretty careful as to where it stepped and what it introduced. And it was like just concepts of aliens and life. And it dealt with some bigger things, but ultimately that fit into a common narrative in itself. I don't know where Eternals sits. It sets something up completely different, right? It doesn't really build off of Shang-Chi, although they allude to the rings at some point, I think, in the end credits when they're going through things. But ultimately, it kind of sits on its own. And so I don't know if this movie ever has like a Winter Soldier effect somewhere where the next movie that comes out makes this film better because we understand where they were going. But yeah, this escalation is getting interesting inside of the MCU. That's for sure.
Yeah. Ian, why don't you build on that a bit, man? Or let me know your thoughts on that whole concept and where it's going.
I think that's true. And that's an interesting point. Like, I didn't really kind of pick up on that before, but I think, we've been spoiled a lot with the connectivity of all these different movies and shows and stuff. And I do think that's one thing that maybe people found it hard to kind of jive with this movie, just that there is no real connectivity between this and what we have. It kind of, for me, it kind of raises lots of questions, actually. Like, you talk about Guardians and you've got all these aliens on all these different planets. And it's like, how do the Celestials, deal with them? And do they have Celestials growing in their planets? And, what is Odin to, did the Celestials create Asgard? Like, what are their aims? What's their clear purpose? And yeah, it makes me wonder. Like, they're gonna take Arisham's taking them away to read their memories to see if humans are worth saving, and it makes me wonder whether there is some extra end game for the Celestials. Maybe are they searching for something that we don't know about yet? Maybe they are looking for a species that is, has more potential than other species, or maybe they're looking for something different. So I think the guys at Marvel know what they're doing, and I think there's going to be something that brings them together. But it's kind of interesting. The idea is Eternals at the moment does feel very on its own, and it doesn't. It makes you wonder. We're expecting to talk about the multiverse and talk about things like time and like. We got none of that here. We've got this new big bad, these Sentinels, whether they're bad or good, and what is the judgment gonna be? Are they gonna, I don't want them to send. I really hope it's not Arisham sends Galactus. Like, it's gonna be Galactus is one of these guys that they use for judgment, because then it just takes away from Galactus. And I think
the Devourer of Worlds,
as you
man.
said, it would have
like,
been.
It gets teed up as like he's the judgment that is sent, right?
But can he be bigger than the Celestials now? I don't know. Have they taken that away from us?
Yeah.
Because can he?
Man, you start going too crazy, and then eventually we're all just a Japanese guy in the bathroom saying, "Where's Thanos?" Like, that's where this all goes.
I think you can always go bigger, though. You can always go bigger. I would say, and I think so. But I mean, even to the point like Kang the Conqueror, right, and Loki. I believe like when they travel to that planet or wherever he was, in that timeline, like Kang is like the end of the end, like where he is. So you'd have to imagine wherever Kang sits at the end of the day, he's outlived even the Celestials, which kind of puts him even
Yeah.
beyond the Celestials themselves, right? And that's just looking at
Yeah.
Kang. So if you look at Kang, then there's again, I go back to the theory of there's always a bigger fish. So I would say they can definitely outdo themselves.
Yeah.
It's when
I
you
think
introduce
so.
a maker that you complicate everything, right? You introduce like a
And when do
governing.
you lose your audience, right?
Yeah,
Because that's the other thing you got to be worried about. Because it's one thing for like the four of us to talk about it, who were reading
Yeah.
comic books and have all this history and are inclined to watch every single thing and to invest in the stories. And it's like, I didn't like that one, but gotta be on board front of the line for the next one. But like the MCU's catering to a vastly larger audience than us, right? So
Mhm.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
Like I would say
I
the
think that's-
majority of their audience is GA. Like you're not
Mhm.
getting these numbers, and like in real life numbers too, that would probably be exceeding $100 million, and you're getting these billion-dollar films. That doesn't happen with the four of us, right? And our community. We are the first nighters Thursday at 7 o'clock, viewing, coming back here and talking about it, and raving or ranting online about it. But the real audience is the GA on these things. Like that's why the MCU is so huge, and introducing these concepts. Yes, like now that you look back on it, the Infinity Stones themselves. I remember us talking like, this is kind of a complicated thing. You know, we're talking about unset power sources, random stones, and that's nothing. Like that seems like a pretty straightforward open and close story now.
but they took 10 years to get
Yeah,
there.
true.
They got there very slowly, and they brought you along like every step of the way, right? Like
Yeah.
really, you went through all of phase one, and there was one Infinity Stone at play
Yeah.
after a full phase.
Yeah.
And now we have time,
Yeah.
we have Celestials, we have engineers, we have aliens, predators, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I think the audience is there though, man. I think because I mean, you look at if you go way back and people are like you can't have more than one Batman on screen. Well, like, we're gonna get there, and people know now, right? People know that we're gonna have 2 Flashes or 3 Flashes or 2 Batmans, possibly 3 Spider-Man. Like that multiverse has been open, and like everybody's on board. Even when you go to a TV series like the CW verse, right? They've been doing that. Into the Spider-Verse thing won Oscars. It did pretty well. It was well received. So I feel like the audience is there for all this kind of
You have
stuff.
to-
It's and it's kind of because the MCU's kind of trained the audience to kind of get there as well, right? And
And I think they don't
yeah,
even
I
need
just-
to. They don't even need to know what's going on. I think sometimes. I think that's a
No.
good point from Troy. I mean, I think sometimes the general audience, sometimes they don't care. Like they don't
That's
have
fair.
to know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
My wife loves Marvel. She binge watched all the MCU movies. She went through. She doesn't understand what the hell's going on, but she loves it. And you know, I was in my local comic shop, and it was the same thing. Like you know, these 3 people came in, and they started buying up all this Eternal stuff after watching
Yeah.
the movie, and they're talking to the shop owner, and they're saying to him like, "We didn't understand, but it was such a great movie." And like, I think, I mean, Troy's got a good point. I think they're there. I mean, I do think the audience are gonna stick with it, and I think you don't always have to. It doesn't always have to make sense to them, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that, man. Like, and I do like that perspective. Like, I've read some Eternal stuff, and it's not the easiest stuff to get through all the time or understand. And they really just adapted pieces of it in this film, right? They don't stay true to really much of what the Eternals, and especially the Eternals' deviant relationship. Like, I think it's quite a bit different. Like the base concept that it's one versus the other, but like I think the word they're derived from, the catalyst for the battle, and all that's a little bit different, but. Yeah, I guess maybe we don't give the general audience enough credit on stuff like this, on these concepts, right? Like you guys are talking about Dune, and we're talking about Alien, Predator, like all these different film franchises, Star Wars even, right? It's pretty wild stuff that happens in there, and people just kind of roll with it. And so, yeah, maybe we're not giving the general audience enough credit on that one. I can buy that.
we'll see. We'll see. So speaking of these characters, what did you guys think of our 10 Eternals? Who were your standouts, and who kind of left you cold? Timbo.
I gotta say, I said it once, Makari, I love the actress that portrayed this and how they utilized her, the way that she spoke, sign language, and her relationship with Druig. Druig to me is a standout in this one. I don't think we spent enough time with this guy, and he is the one that they probably should have built a little more around when it comes to the descent amongst the Eternals. But I like this character. And what's the actor's name? He's awesome. Barry Keoghan.
Yeah.
I thought he just had a presence to him on the screen. Like every time he was on, I was like, yes, give me more of this guy. I like where he's going. That relationship, that chemistry he had with Makkari was very palpable to me. It was believable, more so than Cersei and Ikaris. I thought that felt a little wooden, the two of them. I never really felt emotionally invested in that relationship that was supposed to be like the greatest thing ever. And those two, Makkari and Druig, they are the standouts for me. I like Fastos. His power set was a bit weird. And then who else do we have? Who was Angelina Jolie's character? What was her name?
Thena.
Yeah, I like that. It felt like a different story sometimes. Her and the other dude, like it felt like they were off doing something else. And like you said earlier, Carl, they could have played a bit more with her dementia and her losing it. And maybe she could have been the villain, the punchy villain that they went up against throughout this. That was not on purpose, and it didn't really have to allude to them falling apart as a team. And you could have used her a bit more. But ultimately, I think, they try throughout the movie through taking certain Eternals away and reintroducing them slowly. I think that they recognize the fact that 10 characters with this deep of a history and a needed family chemistry is very hard to do, even in the 2.5 hours that they had. And to get you emotionally invested in the characters, I don't know if it would have been better to take some of them away for now or killed some of them earlier, because the characters that do get killed, you kind of feel a little something for them, but maybe not as much as they wanted you to. And the relationships that they wanted you to be invested in, you didn't get quite enough there. And I'm speaking mostly towards Ikaris. I liked the character. I like what they wanted to do with them. But like I said earlier, they spent too much time hiding the twist and not enough time putting the energy into understanding why he was that way. Why he felt so burdened by this mission that he was willing to literally kill his entire family, his existence. He was willing to put them away to serve Arishem.
Yeah. Well, and he was just so stoic and cold for the whole thing that he was never believable. Like you never believed that he cared about Cersei, like from the outset.
Well, they allude a lot
And
to
then-
that I left for a reason, right? And they leave you lingering on that for like almost 2 hours.
But like right when they're like at the peak of their romance, you didn't buy it.
Yeah.
You didn't buy it at all. And the only thing I'll add to that is like forcing Dane Whitman into this thing just to give her a new love interest to bookend the movie and honestly buy you a post-credits scene really undermined your core of the film, which is supposed to be this love between Cersei and Ikaris, and then Ikaris's pull between his duty to Arishem and doing what's right by Cersei, who has forsaken her mission because she's in love with humanity. But Troy, my man, you are ready. You are primed. Take it away, man.
Okay, so going for the characters, I'm gonna be honest. I was surprised that I loved Thena so much.
Yeah.
From the little bits that we had of Angelina Jolie's character, I loved her every time she was present. Like the swag that she had with the weapon, kind of reminded me a little bit of like Gal Gadot in BVS. But I loved her, and then like what she's battling with like that like amnesia almost kind of effect going on with her was really cool, and I wanted more of that. And her relationship with Gilgamesh was far better than what we got with Cersei and Ikaris. Man, like I wish I got more of that. I liked Druid. I didn't think I'd like Druid either, and he was pretty cool, man. I did dig him a lot, and I gotta give credit to is it Fastos? So I didn't care for him, but I give that actor credit because I've been rough on that guy from Godzilla. I think he's been horrible.
Oh, he was the
And I was like,
Godzilla guy?
when I've seen the trailer,
Yeah.
he was in
He
Godzilla,
was the
and
podcaster.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So when he was in this film, I was like, you know what? He brought it. Like this guy was working for that paycheck. I give him a lot of credit. He came through for me in this one. But for me, yeah, it was Thena, man. I loved Thena quite a bit. Kit Harington, is it Kit Harington? Yeah, from Game of Thrones. He
yeah.
wasn't very good at all, and I'm not even excited for him as Black Knight. Like,
What do you mean,
you're
Troy?
trying to sell this.
Why? What do you mean? I'm the Black Knight.
I liked him. I liked
He
him.
wasn't. He wasn't doing it
He
for
didn't
me
need
at
to
all.
be in
I
this
was just
movie,
like,
man.
He had no
Oh,
business.
No, he
had
could
no
have. He
business
could have been in
film
this movie
whatsoever.
for 30 seconds at the start, and she just name drops
No,
out
not
he
even.
goes.
Yeah, like I think the movie would have been better if it was Sprite and Cersei at the beginning, and Cersei's kind of lost, and then like embraces
Yeah.
Icarus coming back, but not knowing that he's taken a turn for the worse and is setting them up, and the whole thing works better. But you have this weird relationship where, oh, you mean you're an Eternal, and like he's not shocked
Keep
at all. He
doing that
doesn't
voice.
care.
No,
Like
No.
your girlfriend.
He's
That
like, can you make me a giraffe?
Yeah.
I don't understand how Marvel, like with this film, they
I
took
want to
on
be a giraffe.
they took on such a hard time because their Eternals have never been big, but they've tried pushing them lately, and the Black Knight has never been big, and they tried, and you put both of these characters that nobody really cares about in one film, and I'm like, why did you do that? Why wouldn't you give us at least like just put Blade in then?
Oh,
It doesn't make any sense. but
Exactly.
there's a fan base. Like
Yeah.
people like him. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Icarus I was hoping for though. I really was thinking this is gonna be like that Magneto, Michael Fassbender kind of performance, and we didn't get it. He was so wooden. The Superman reference was kind of funny, but it didn't do too much for me. So I thought that was a really missed opportunity. But Kingo, is it Kingo?
Yeah.
Is the other
Kingo,
one?
yeah.
I thought this was gonna be our Johnny Cage. I was excited for this guy, and he was okay. He seemed like he had the most fun there out of anybody.
Yeah.
But kind of hit or miss for me. He's definitely like the more likable character, I'd say, because it's a pretty wooden ensemble. I mean, I'm coming off of Suicide Squad, man, and I loved
Yeah.
everybody in that film. And I went into that film thinking like I was gonna like anybody. You want to talk about ensemble? That was ensemble. James Gunn holds it down when he's a character director, and I loved everybody on screen, even Pete Davidson. And then in this film, we have some pretty decent actors, and I think I mentioned two characters that I really liked, Druid and Thena.
Yeah.
Come on.
Like we got to the end of that movie, and like when they're on the beach and they're starting to face down against each other, I thought to myself, I was like, man, I don't care if all of these guys die right now and this celestial pops out of the planet. Like, just be done with it. Just be done with it. Like,
MCU, the end.
yeah, let me go.
Rogue One it.
Release me.
So where did Kingo go? This is the thing that I don't understand about that character, and I think I agree with you, Troy, that he seemed to be having a good time, and there's a lot of maybe issues with the portrayal of it that I would be interested to hear.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know if you want to hear him from me. man.
yeah, maybe not. But what did they do with this character at the end? Like they were trying to use him, I think, as a way to do contextualization dumps throughout the movie. Like he was just a device to feed information and say, oh, I'm recording this, tell me a bit about yourself. And so you're getting history without it being directly looking at the screen being like, this is who I am. They're using a mechanism, a device to draw that out of the character so that it wasn't so obvious on the screen. But then he just up and disappears at the end. Like he's just like, yeah, I'm out, and never comes back, and it's like the heroic reentry. He just kind of picks them up at the end. It's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like go and just do nothing while the world ends. Like I never understood that.
Well, because he kind of took the path of no resistance, right? Where he's like, I believe in Arisham's mission, so therefore I'm with Icarus, but I will not. You're my family, and you want to try and take out the Celestial, so I'm not going to fight you, but I'm just going to peace out with my racist sidekick guy here. And,
Horrible.
Oh man,
Horrible.
it was a
Man, I liked him, man.
what?
I liked him.
No, like as a brown guy,
Dude.
it's like you've done 25 movies, and the first two brown people you introduce, like the first South Asian characters in the MCU, one is a Bollywood guy, and the other one is
Yeah.
your thick accent, like laughing stock
Oh.
stereotype. I'm like,
Yeah.
Come
But he was
on.
from India, though. I mean, I lived in India for like 4 months, and like in India, that's what people like. The little head wobble and they're super friendly and a bit bubbly. I
But they
don't know,
fell,
I
but they
liked-
fell,
I
they
liked
fell
him.
right into the stereotype. I
Yeah.
was like, really? Like,
yeah, okay. I get
I thought they could. I think MCU. I would have thought they were smarter than that. Or had
the
more
Bollywood
integrity,
dance was
And I was
the
like,
Bollywood dance was what got me, man. It's just like that was the. He said the first time you introduce an Indian character and he's doing a Bollywood dance.
Oh, I
thought
know.
That
What
was,
I watched an interview
that
with
was-
him, and he said that he's like, no, I don't want to do this. And then they said, okay, you can be
Here's
a
your
Bollywood
paycheck?
action star, and we'll do like an action
Oh,
scene.
right, okay.
And he showed up, and they're like, nah, no, we're doing the Bollywood thing, the dance thing.
Dance. Oh, right. Yeah.
Man, it's terrible. Like for like, it triply irritated me because like everybody was flag waving about diversity and representation and all this
Mhm.
kind of stuff, and it's like, holy smokes! Like that's like introducing the Falcon, or having Sam Wilson come in as that pimp character that he dressed up as in
Yeah.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier the first time you meet him, or not even. It would
Yeah.
be Rhodey being the character like that, right?
Mhm.
Or
yes, yes,
like,
yeah.
it was terrible. Like I love the way they
Yeah.
played with that a bit in Shang-Chi, where it's like, we know what you're thinking, racist audience members, but this is not what that is,
Yeah.
and kind of clapping back at it, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Simu Liu and Aquafina were cool, but this was just like, holy smokes! Like,
It was like a Simpsons character, man.
Mm.
Like, come on, like,
It was
no,
ultimately
no,
it
no,
it
I
was
was
too
feeling
much.
it.
They felt too beholden to the fact that they needed 10 Eternals or whatever. And it was never really fully explained why they needed so many. Like, does their power sets never really seem to complement each other in a way that you needed every single person for a certain aspect of surviving or defeating the deviants or what have you. So
Mhm.
if they had to just cut that in half almost, and then alluded to in Eternals 2, there's more Eternals somewhere else. Let's go find them, our family, or something to that effect. And you might lose some of the dynamic, but ultimately
they had dynamics.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
there's a little bit. Thena and Gilgamesh had dynamics. Makari and Druid, I think, had a bit of chemistry. But ultimately, there's just too much going on. Like, there are very likable characters in here, and I think whoever brought up the Suicide Squad is bang on. They reduced like 15 characters there in 7 minutes, and you loved all of them. And so that goes to direction, and that goes to writing, and that goes to even casting. You know, I don't want to question anyone casted here, but you cast guys like Michael Rooker and Pete Davis into these roles, and you're immediately attached with them because of your previous knowledge of the actor,
Mhm.
right? You can just assume that you either like them or not like them, but you know what they're going to be like. And there's none of those characters here, right? You find yourself trying to get invested and listen to every single word to understand these characters and then understand 10 different power sets. It's very overwhelming at times, even for someone that has a little bit of Eternals knowledge. It's just there's
Yeah.
too much going on, I think, to really get
I
an
think-
appreciation for what character development could or should have been.
Well, and the reason they had
Right.
so many is because they had like this kind of tokenism mindset with the
Mhm.
representation. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you make Icaros a brown guy then?
Yeah.
Like, make him
Exactly,
make your big,
exactly.
cool, powerful guy South Asian.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there you go, right? And
Well,
then
we've
that's
talked
one
about
less
this, we've
guy you
talked
need.
about this. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well, I guess
yeah.
he's the he's the it turns out to be the villain, and he's the good-looking white dude who's gonna
or
did
Druid even too,
switcheroo.
right? Like they could have definitely swapped around, but
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of
Well, you
questionable.
can- Or
Black
because
Knight.
I
You
thought
can
it was-
you can character
yeah.
bash here
Yeah.
too. It's not like we've seen this before in the MCU where you combine power sets and you combine characters into a single character
Yeah.
for functionality inside of a plot, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to have all 10. You can have 6, but like you said, you cram together Kingo and Icarus into one character, right?
Mhm.
And they carry the blasty things and they carry the plot differently. But ultimately, if you want to be beholden to the source material, you hit on certain aspects of those characters that is flushed out through a single character.
Yeah.
So let's get into this.
I mean, like it's a shame. Sorry, I'm just gonna say it's a shame though. I mean, like some of the actors you were saying about like even the actors like Icarus' actor, like I think he was the one thing I was actually looking forward to in this movie.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
you know, I'd seen him in Bodyguard,
yes, that's
which is a great TV
He's
series, and
excellent
he's
in that.
great in that. And I mean, like they just didn't give him the opportunity to show any kind of range. I mean, he did get to cry a little bit, and he got a bit angry, but we just didn't get to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think, And you're talking about like Makari and Druig, like they don't get a romance, but they get like a few scenes, like seconds, where they're just like bouncing off each other, and like the
awesome.
chemistry there was so good, man. And like afterwards, like I googled it, I checked to see if there was something going on between these two off screen, and she's married. Like there's nothing
Hey,
there.
that
It's
doesn't
just
mean
like that
anything, man.
now.
Look at Gal and Chris Pine.
But that performance just shows, like, the thing between Icarus and Cersei, this didn't work. It was just cold. Like we just didn't get to see it, man. Like it was just really weird how they just didn't give us that time of them being together. And then if they did, it would make more sense at the end, where he finds it hard to turn against that. But I just felt like, it just didn't work. And then you get people like Angelina Jolie, like her presence on screen, like Troy was saying, like Thena was just so good. And I think that just shows, the talent there. With she doesn't even have to say anything, and she has this presence on screen. And I just think she was one of the standouts in this.
Well, and there's something interesting and
But I
different,
don't-
right, with the dementia type story that they told
Yes.
with her.
Yeah,
And even you're pointing in
but
about
I just sometimes I don't know if it is.
Makari and Druig. There's literally almost no words exchanged between the two of them, right? And it's
Exactly,
I think it's the best relationship on screen.
Well, there's a moment where he's behind and
Yeah.
he kind of nudges her with his shoulder, and they kind of look at each other, and I'm just like, boom, look at those two. Like, you know what they've been up to on Babylon. Like, it just works. But then you get to see it shown to you with like Icarus and Cersei. Like they have this sex scene. I mean, they've been there for 2,000 years, man. Like you thought it would have been a little bit more romantic, a little bit more action going on there. But it was just cold. It was just didn't feel like they were even in a relationship. It was really weird.
Because they're robots, man. It's like the Westworld action going on there. But yeah, but like with those relationships, like that also kind of compounds why it doesn't make sense when they break apart from each other. Because why wouldn't Makari go with Druig? And if she had like a different mission or a different calling, that's fine. But she's literally sitting in a ship for thousands of years reading books, and he's on his own. Like, why wouldn't the two of them seek each other out? And yeah, I don't know. But let's get into this finale here and start wrapping this thing up. Troy, my man, what did you think of this big final battle and where this all comes to a head? Where we have Icarus take his turn, we see that he murders Ajax, and why the voice and connection to Arishem goes to Cersei, and then we have the big battle with the ship and the Eternals versus the Eternals. And Crow randomly coming into the middle of this thing.
Oh, we forgot this guy.
Setting
Get him
up
in.
one thing.
Get him in.
Yeah.
Gotta sell that action
and
figure.
then
Crow ate
turning
Crow.
into something else.
Yeah, I mean they wrapped it up. I did like that little flashback. Especially when you go back to the mystery box of how it all unravels. And I think seeing Icarus betray that was like the Fassbender. That was like the David kind of part I liked, right? Like when you make the Prometheus kind of parallels. That was the part I liked of him turning his back on Ajax and taking her out. I thought that was okay. But then when we get into the actual action scenes, can I also say with the action scenes, just the film in general, I forgot too, like the score. Like no one talks about the score because it's non-existent. The score was like just not there, and I need that. I need that for like a top film. I need that good.
You go
score.
to that
So that's
last
just a
trailer,
side tangent there,
and it's like it has this like awesome presence about the score. Like we talked about being a freaking character in the trailer. And then it disappears here. It's unfortunate because that's like a framing of landscapes, right? Like that I went back and watched both those trailers before this, and it is that score that, at least from my perception, that's where I felt I was going to get this big, vast film from, right? And there's elements of that, but I agree with you. I didn't really think about it until this moment, and it's like I couldn't tell you a single note.
No, not at all. That didn't carry over with me one bit. But yeah, like the final battle scene was, it was okay. It wasn't anything amazing for me. I feel like, to be honest, well, Shang-Chi was okay, but the last 3 Marvel films I've seen, the final battles have kind of been a little lackluster, and this one continues that thread. So it didn't do too much for me. You guys already touched on it too when when Cersei got taken out there by Sprite. Is it Sprite or
Sprite.
Spirit? No, Sprite, right?
Mhm.
Sprite,
Yeah, Sprite. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of whatever. It was just the third act was kind of weak. It was actually very weak. It's one of the weaker acts
It
in
looked
an
bad,
MCU
too.
film, for my opinion.
It ha-
And it didn't look good, and I don't understand that because this budget, man, like the budget must have been pretty good. MCU has a really good budget, and whew, it didn't look that.
I wonder
great,
how
man.
much of this was
It really
reshot,
didn't.
like the third act, because it feels like at times it feels like two different movies mashed together.
Okay, Tim, we don't need the release the Zao cut.
Man, it's
Hashtag
coming, man. It's
campaign.
coming.
I know
Yeah,
that
really?
that's what's percolating, man. But you know,
Come on.
we've already,
Hey,
like I said,
in Feige, I
lighten
trust.
the match on the powder keg. But yeah, why don't you take it away there, man? What did you think of the third act and the resolution to this whole thing?
You know, I struggle with this because as we talk about these films, I find that we bring up all these elements and we let them hang. And like the purpose of that is we have these discussions, we flush things out, and then we allow the audience to make their own opinion from that, right? We're not here to shove an opinion down your throat. And when I look back at the discussion, it sounds somewhat low on it, but when I come into this third act and I'm seeing the puzzle pieces come together, I'm okay. I'm digging the film at this point, right? I'm into the story, I'm into the characters' flaws and all, and I'm having fun. Like I feel like it took me a little bit of time to get into the movie. Like it was until the second act when I felt comfortable in my seat and I'm like, okay, I'm watching this and consuming it as it's coming to me. The twist, I did not see coming at all. The Icarus twist, I thought this guy was like Boy Scout Superman to the end of the day. And boom, he flips around. I wish that was a bit more earned. I wish that there was a bit more in there where it was still a shock, but not so much a shock where you're like, whoa, like how are they going to explain all of this now? And then they rapidly backtrack in this and tell you and reframe the perspective of Icarus when he's talking to Ajax and the death and all this, right? And so they really rapidly push through the third act to get you to this battle of Eternal versus Eternal while the Celestial's coming up. The thing that took me out of the most was the Celestial, the hand coming up. Like it just felt like if this was happening, like what happens with like the gravity of the earth and the Celestial shows up, like wouldn't that cause like some weird stuff going on? Like your ocean's pulling funny. And anyways, I was thinking of the physics of it more maybe than I should have, but I think it was good. Like it worked for the film that was in front of us. The deviants coming back made no sense to me. They just seemed like we need something to punch here at some point, and so we're going to do that. And the conclusion of it, yeah, it works for, I think, the film. There is probably a better conclusion, but at the end of the day, they kind of still have to make these films somewhat self-contained. If you knew you're getting an Eternals 2 and maybe they just are going to do that, or if you knew where the story was exactly going, maybe you could have saved some of this third act or some of these elements for later. But at the end of the day, maybe you didn't have that luxury, you know, whether it was Chloe Zhao or whether it was the Marvel Studios saying, we have to hit these points because we're going to touch on this in Love and Thunder or what have you, and we need to get this out. And so this is maybe where that story suffers a little bit. But ultimately, I'm here for it. I'm enjoying myself in the theater while I'm watching this, consuming it. Looking back, yeah, sure, there's flaws, but it works.
Ian, how about you, man?
Yeah, it's a bit of what you all said. I mean, I think what Tim said there is a good point. I think leading up to that point until the kind of final act, I was still kind of invested in the movie and I was enjoying it. And I think for me, the third act, like that finale is where it kind of unraveled for me. There was some good action scenes. I liked when like the Makari was doing
that was awesome.
The speed and she's like beating up Icarus, and I thought that was pretty cool. And that fight was really good. Like there was some good fight scenes there. But then like, you know, he gets pinned down and then it's I don't know, like for me, as soon as they entered that ship, everything was a mess. Mm-hmm. And the reason I thought that, like, it was just this back and forth where you had Icarus basically says to them, you know, it's Cersei's choice. Why doesn't he just say, like, you know, I think we should let the Celestial come out. And he's kind of gives it the choice. Then he goes off and thinks about it. Then he comes back and he's just full Terminator mode, like, I'm going to stop everything. And then he blows up the design. And then you got Phastos again, like Fastos is like, yeah, we can't do it, and they're like, oh no, but she can turn the deviants into trees. Oh, why didn't you tell me that before? You couldn't do that before. No, I can't do it. She walks off, and it's like, what's going on here? It's kind of really weird. Like, and then she's like, no, I can do it again. Oh no, but we don't have the technology. Oh, you do. You got it in your neck. Let's make these bangles that get smashed in like 10 seconds, and they don't even use them at the end. So it was kind of, for me, it was just really weird. Like, I felt that again, there was this pressure to hit those MCU beats, and it just didn't work for me. Like, I felt like they could have slowed down. I mean, Tim made a good point about the Celestial coming out of the planet. Like, you know, earlier we'd seen it just smash this planet apart and come out, and then, you know, this one comes out really slowly, and the tip of him comes out. It just made me think, like, you know, maybe this dude can get out without breaking the planet. Like, it's his head's out and his hands
It's
are
not
out.
often
And that,
the hardest
so
part
again,
about birth.
it's always dangerous, even if it's just the tip. It's always dangerous.
Yeah. But yeah, it kind of, for me, it just felt a bit weird. Like, it was this back and forth. Like, Icarus changed his mind over and over again, and I could understand if he's struggling with his decisions, and he kind of seems like that at the end, but he kind of basically shoots all his mates with lasers. And then when he comes to the chance to stop Cersei, he didn't have to shoot. He could have just picked her up and stopped her from doing it. But he just starts crying and lets her save the planet. And I was just like, man, like, something's wrong here.
It's not an earned moment. That's the
They've-
problem.
It's not an earned moment. Yeah, it's like they've just seemed to be pushing this story forward with all these different things happening to make this big finale, but it just didn't feel earned. It just didn't feel necessary. So yeah.
Yeah, no,
And I mean, even the return of Crow was, I mean, I think he came back for Thena, right? That was for Thena's moment, like to give Jolie
Mm-hmm.
her big moment. But I felt like she already had that. She got that when Gilgamesh died. Is it Gilgamesh?
Yes.
He died.
Mhm.
Like, she had that moment. So I don't think she needed that end.
when she fought Icarus to stand still
Mhm.
a couple times too, right, on the ship and then
Oh,
on
that's
the
true.
beach.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and you know what, man, you hit so many great points, and I kind of said it before. Like, by the time we got to I didn't care about any of them. I was just like,
Yeah.
get this guy out
Yeah.
and let's be done.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
that's kind of where I was at with it by that point in time. So yeah, let's get into these end credit scenes. Let's start with the first one. So we have the fanfare, and we have our Eternals departing Earth to go on their 5-year mission to find new life, new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. And then Pip the Troll jumps out and introduces Eros, brother of Thanos. Timbo, what do you think of this whole thing, man?
As fan service, awesome, man. I'm digging this. I Pip the Troll is a character I'm surprised they didn't use in the Infinity Saga. And then him showing up here, I knew who it was immediately, but I'm like, man, who made this thing? Like, it is, the CGI is difficult, right? Given that all the stuff they've done with Thanos and everything, it's like, why does this stand out so much? It's like, almost like it wasn't finished. And then he introduced, what's his name, Harry Styles as Eros. I like, sure, like, when you go, if you're casting for look, this guy fits the bill. I don't know how well or good he is at acting. And introducing as the brother of Thanos might be a bit confusing for the GA. I think it's kind of a cool thing. He's an Eternal, I believe, in the comics anyways. And so question is, where the hell were you when your brother was doing all this stuff? But ultimately, it's a fan service. Yes, this will lead to something. There's more Eternals. There's a bigger plot point here. And I dig this inclusion of both Pip and Eros.
Cool. Troy, my man. How about you, brother?
Yeah, it's kind of weird for me. I agree with Tim. Like, I feel like Pip should have been in the Infinity Saga, but I mean, it doesn't have to be a complete adaptation of, like, you know, the comic books. So I mean, wherever they place them, I'm sure it's going to serve some sort of purpose. So it's okay, but the CGI was really weird. Like, it really took me out of the film, to be honest, at that point. And Patton Oswalt has such a face too, right? So when I saw that, I
It
was
was
like,
his voice, eh?
that's kind of weird. And then it was him. It was Patton Oswalt. And then Star Fox,
Euros.
Astros, right?
Eros.
Euros, but Star Fox, Euros, like the same dude. So, yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's all right that he showed up. I don't really know, like, isn't the dude Harry Styles? Isn't he like a
He's
boy
a
band?
singer guy.
Or wasn't he?
He's from One
He's
Direction.
from One Direction.
Yeah, that's what I
But
thought.
he
So I
was
didn't
in
know.
he's in lots of movies though. He's a
Oh,
good
is he?
actor.
Okay,
Is he?
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had an actual acting background, so that's why I thought like that's kind of weird. But
He was in Dunkirk.
okay, well that's good to know. That's good to know. So I am actually interested to see where they go with like the brother of Thanos, because I really liked Thanos's book. What was it? It was before we got into the Infinite Saga by Hickman. It was like his origin story. It was awesome.
Oh yeah.
Eternal?
Thanos Rising.
Was it Thanos Rising?
Where he's like
That
a
was
little kid and
absolutely
stuff,
amazing.
and they're showing.
Yeah, and it
okay.
shows him take out his parents, I think, and I thought that was amazing. So if we can kind of get a little bit of that backstory through his brother, I think that would be fantastic. So that was okay for me, but it wasn't like a mind blowing. I mean, I'm coming off the after credit of Venom at this point, and I'm like, okay, like that's okay, that's okay.
Saved the whole movie.
To the point where I actually to the point where I forgot that there would be 2 after credits. So I was just on my way out walking, and I'm like, wait a second, everybody's still sitting down. So like stood there. I'm like, wait, there's a second post credit. Let's see what's gonna happen. So we'll get there though.
Yeah, I'm. It's funny that you bring up doing that story, because can you imagine Harry Styles trying to act against Brolin? like,
Yeah.
like just when he rolls out and he's got that red silk on or whatever. I don't know, but Ian, brother, what did you think of this? What your fellow countrymen coming out there?
Yeah, I mean, like I like the Harry Styles thing. I guess just because, I'm not a big One Direction fan.
Oh,
but
come
I
on
mean,
now.
he's-
We're all
he's-
friends
he's-
here. Just be yourself, man.
Dude, my wife's a One Direction fan. She was. I mean, she had a little thing for him for a while. I tried to explain to her how old they were, and she was still into it. It makes me a little worried. But yeah, like Harry Styles, like I kind of like seeing him, and I mean, he's been in some other stuff recently. He's been popping up in stuff, and I think he is pretty talented. Like out of the group, like the other guys haven't really gone anywhere, and he has done some good parts. Like I think he's probably good for the role. I'm not saying he's a great actor, but I think it's kind of cool to have him. And this character is someone who's supposed to be able to charm people.
all
and
facade.
I think, it's
Yeah.
maybe a good fit. But like I'm a little different than you guys. I think I probably know a little less about this side of the story. So I kind of tried to read up on it and learn a little bit about it. So for me, I think I was probably more in the area of the general audience, where like I'd heard of these characters, but I didn't know much about them, and it was kind of a little underwhelming for me. I'm like, what's going on here? And then what's his name? Star Fox Eros says, my fellow Eternals. And I was like, he's an Eternal?
Yep.
Is that true? He's an Eternal. So does that so Thanos is an Eternal?
Yeah, but I don't think that
Yeah, the-
Eternals were always robots, though. So that's something.
Well, in
new.
the comics they
No.
weren't.
Yeah.
In the comics, they're actual
okay.
beings, and I think Thanos' parents were actually from Earth. They're humans as well, but Thanos was born with like a rare or some kind of genetic.
Well, he has a
hiccup.
deviant gene. I know that.
That's
so
what
he's,
he has,
He's
yeah,
got a
yeah.
deviant gene, right? So that's why
Yeah.
he's the way he is. But it made
Yeah.
me wonder. I immediately started thinking, like, was Thanos actually an Eternal, and he knew about the Celestials' plan, and that's really the reason why he wanted to balance. And I thought that would be kind of cool, but it kind of retcons what we've seen before with his past planet and using all the resources, and so it was interesting for me. It definitely had me intrigued. But like sitting in the theater, I do think looking at everybody, nobody knew what the hell was going on,
Yeah.
and a lot of mid-credit, end-credit scenes usually get us hyped, and people recognize characters. I think with this is one that's definitely fan service. It's very much for the die-hard fans for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one thing that I thought was kind of interesting was that he had jumped on the ship to enlist their help to engage other Eternals that needed their assistance, kind of thing. So, it's like if they build on the narrative that they started here, where the Eternals are going to be opposing the Celestials going forward. Might be an interesting jumping on point for that. But yeah, we'll see. The Harry Styles thing was interesting because it kind of reminded me of comic book movies from the 90s where there was tons of stunt casting where everybody wants, like, you get to the point where it's like Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson are in Batman because they're the best fits for it. And then you get to Batman and Robin where George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger are in it because they're the it actors of the time. And by the time this movie ended, that's kind of how I was feeling. It's like, Harry Styles, of course, makes sense. Makes sense. Where's Zendaya? But then we go to our final post-credits scene, and unfortunately, he didn't get to become a giraffe, but we have Dane Whitman there, Kit Harington opening a box, going back and forth. Oh no, I don't want to do it. Oh, I got to do it, and then. and
that was just, I don't know, that was my kind of cringe moment of the whole movie, I think, where just him acting just there like, I can do it. No, I can't do it. I can do it. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is the guy who we're gonna see go forward. Like, why do that?
Yeah, and so he opens up the box and the ebony blade is in there, and I love the look of the ebony blade. I thought it looked cool. I was kind of hoping that the symbiote would come off it and it was actually Null and he killed Dane Whitman, but that didn't happen. But yeah, Troy, what did you think of this, man? And what did you think of that voice at the end of it? I got to throw it to you first, brother.
Oh man, this was so crazy because like at this point I already checked out from Kit Harington's character, the Black Knight. I was like, I'm not feeling this guy at all. I like the design of the Black Knight, but I never really dug the portrayal going on in this movie. And so when we got here, I was much like Ian. I was like, this back and forth nonsense. And I'm so used to seeing Kit Harington hold it down. Jon Snow, Battle of the Bastards, like, this guy's the man. And I see him in this, and I'm like, oh, really? And so he finally does what he does. And then I hear the voice, and I'm like, well, what? Like, who was that? Who was that? So I actually had to, like, go home and be like, who the heck was that? Because you don't see who it was. And when I found out that was Mahershala Ali's Blade, I was like, come on. Like, you guys missed out because, much like Ian said, like, the crowd didn't respond at all.
I didn't know who it was
to
either.
both credit scenes. Nobody knew who the heck that was. So I'm like, the fact that you guys did this, you didn't like insert Blade somewhere or have him just kind of walk out, something. Like, I thought that's such a weird thing. When
Nailed
you drop
it, man.
like a narrative with no portrayal of the actual character. Like, what were you going for?
Yeah.
It was so bizarre. Like, but now knowing what it is, I'm like, cool. I'm crazy hyped. Like, this is like, I guess technically the first appearance, if you want to say, of Blade, Mahershala Ali's character being in the MCU. But I mean, like, hearing like even like vampires mentioned in Loki, I'm like, yeah, And then when I hear this voice that I don't know who it is, I was like, okay. Like,
well,
what's
if we're
going
not
on?
catching
So
it,
it's really
no
weird,
one's
like,
catching it.
Yeah, and I know like it sounds like I'm contradicting myself because I just talked literally about like hand holding the audience here, right? But like literally, you would not know who that is, and it didn't even sound like Mahershala Ali.
No.
So if it's like a Wesley Snipes voice, you could be like, oh shoot, because that's pretty distinctive.
Or it just goes
But,
black or
this is
something
a
in the
new
room,
take.
and you get kind of like a feeling or a hand on the shoulder. If you don't want to pay him or show him, you got to get a
Yeah.
bit closer than the voice, I think.
But even if it's like a
Yeah,
COVID
yeah.
thing or whatever, like, just get him to stand in front of a green screen. Or quite frankly, you could have him just say that and just show his mouth and smile and have like a vampire tooth, right? And off you go.
Yeah.
And all you're seeing
Something.
is Mahershala Ali's lower face. And
Mhm.
but it firmly cements. It's like, oh, black guy with vampire teeth, I know who that is. And like,
Yeah.
you get super hyped, right? But yeah, in my theater, everybody's like, was that Sam Jackson? Who was that? And then, yeah, and then like guy
It
going,
was
like,
so
Everybody thought
bizarre.
it was. That's what
I'm
everyone
putting together a
thought it was.
team.
Yeah,
I
it
went
was
on the
so
internet and
bizarre.
everyone thought it was Jeffrey Wright. Everyone thought it was Jeffrey Wright. They thought it was
The Watcher.
The Watcher. Even like comic book websites said the Watcher, and I'm like, what? Like that doesn't. Why would he be in the room?
yeah,
Like just
Yeah.
hanging out there. Like
That's how you know.
That's
it's
supposed to
missed.
interfere.
because he doesn't want anyone to
Yeah.
interfere with his stories.
Yeah.
Because if he touched it, it would ruin his stories.
yeah.
Yeah, the thing that got me excited about that is that maybe they're not going to put the Black Knight in the Avengers, and maybe he's going to be part of a Midnight Suns type thing that they have
Yeah.
going in the background with Blade acting as your Nick Fury, your Batman, your Tony Stark
Mhm.
kind of thing, where he's compiling all these heroes to fight whatever.
I dig that.
Yeah, dark side threat or whatever. So that got me a little more excited about it, and like, I don't know, I'd love to see Blade chew on Kit Harington's Dane Whitman. To be honest with
He
you,
was
so-
fine.
Yeah. Yeah, or Morbius, because I don't know. We might be going there. We might be going there, but I agree.
Well, that
I
kinda
like
makes
that
more
aspect.
sense, right? The Morbius
Yeah.
side.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Those two are pretty
Morbius,
tied together.
Spider-Man. Yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised too. Like eventually, if we do get him actually like in the actual Avengers team, I guess in the MCU, like everybody pops up in the MCU in the Avengers like big roundups, but
Yeah.
because in the comics, just because he's had such a big focus for the last like year and a half, 2 years in Jason Aaron's run. So we kind of got like two like Jason Aaron nods because we got the Blade reference and then we got the Celestial coming out of the ice. So I thought that was kind of a neat little Easter egg there.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you guys? What did you guys think of the
Yeah,
final?
it was
end
fine. Like
credits?
I don't really have any problem with the Kit Harington at this point, and I didn't catch it was Marshall Ali until I read it online afterwards, and I'm with you guys that they should have been maybe a bit more in your face with it, and if they're gonna nod that way, I wasn't aware of any real connection between these characters, so it seemed like a weird pairing, but you know I thought it was just gonna be let's open the box and him look at the blade, and that was gonna be it. But it's sure, like it was a little odd, but it seems like they're cramming a lot into this. But again, it's this escalation thing, right? It's two end credit scenes that they're not aligned, right? They're pointing in two totally different directions. Like you're getting this cosmic thing going on, and you're getting this other like this is almost like your fourth thread, right? Like going into the dark stuff, vampires, and all this, right? Sure, and that's what these are for, I guess. Is let's get some intrigue, and when is this coming?
It's true. How about you, Ian? Any thoughts on this last one, man?
Yeah, I mean the same as Tim. Like I didn't really mind Kit Harington. I think the thing is like seeing him through Game of Thrones, you know, when he kind of plays a serious character and it's kind of, you know, he's kind of serious from the start. We kind of got like rom-com Kit Harington for the movie, and then he comes in to play this serious role, and it's kind of hard to then say, look forward to him taking on this role. But I mean, I guess he's quite fitting. I guess they're going with that whole with the Black Knight, of course, with his past history as, you know, wielding a sword and stuff, and I think it could definitely work. But I definitely didn't get the voice. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's weird that they're cramming so much into this. It makes me wonder if it is, you know, Marvel working alongside Sony, and if there is gonna be, if this part is actually moving towards the Sony side, if it is gonna be Morbius involved, because I think that probably does work a lot more. And it'd be weird to have vampires on two sides and not have them interact or have some backstory.
Yeah.
Again, like I'm not too familiar with the story, but like wasn't it Morbius who gave Blade his powers?
No.
Is that
No,
right?
Dracula.
No?
is
Blade,
kind of
Blade's
the-
mom. Blade's mom was bitten, so she.
I know that from the
she's a-
movie. I thought in the comic books Morbius bit Blade.
No, because Morbius is like Morbius got his powers later. So Morbius got his powers through. I guess the movie kind of explains it, but he actually got his powers through like research and
Like he's-
Yeah, for
basically
science,
kind of like so basically like self-inflicted. So he wasn't actually like a natural vampire, whereas Blade is like a natural vampire, but the Daywalker, because he still has a bit of like the human side where he's not
okay.
affected. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought I knew there was like I know Morbius' story, and I know he's the living vampire, and I know the Blade the Daywalker side. I thought there was some connection there, but yeah,
Well, they've always
I'm
played
wrong
it up
there, I
where
guess.
Blade is just like so anti-vampire that he's just he
Yeah.
goes on the attack. Like they've actually played Morbius to be almost like this sympathetic victim, where it's just like, dude, leave me alone. Like, why are you coming?
Leave me alone. I don't want to be.
Yeah, I'm not a real vampire. I'm not part of the coven that like, because that's his thing with vampires, right? Is that like
Yeah.
sometimes it's one of his minions and sometimes it's Dracula himself bit his mum, but because he was in the womb, he has like the vampirism, but yet the ability to be a daywalker. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, man, here we are to our closing thoughts and letter grade. So you know what? The last shall be first. Ian, first time through, man. Give us your final thoughts and a letter grade on this one.
That's difficult. I think the thing is, it seems like I've been quite negative on this, and to be honest, I still enjoyed it. And as I said, the second time I went through the movie, I did actually have a good time with it. So yeah, it's tricky. I'd probably give it maybe a. I don't know how you guys do it, but I guess for me, maybe B minus. Maybe B minus. I'll go with that.
B minus. Troy the boy,
Yes, sir.
lay it on me, man.
Yeah, it's such a tough one, man, because as we go on, like I feel like I've been pretty harsh on this film, but I didn't think it was that bad. It's just my expectations somehow got higher than they were when I first went into the film. I got to give this a solid C plus. It's not the worst MCU film, but it's by far not the best. It's right in the middle. It does have me a little bit worried with just the character development. I mean, the MCU's hit pretty hard with most of their ensembles, so I feel like they're going to bounce back after this. But my God, if we were to get an X-Men film with characters this stale, I would be like, give it back to Avi Arad and Fox or whoever. Let them do whatever.
Hey,
This is
Troy, I
what
like what
thinks.
you're saying here. We think we could do some good things for the kids. We put them with the Venom, and it'd be good. It'd be good.
I like the Venom. Favorite part.
The Venom.
All right,
All right, a C plus. Timbo,
all right.
give her, brother.
I'm gonna give this. No, I was gonna start throwing out weird letters at you guys just to get you all riled up. But no, I think the one point I want to hit on this with all our reviews, and this doesn't change ever, is that I think that when we put the review goggles on, we have a tendency to pull these things apart, like this art and all this that people have worked on. And I think that the point that we're always trying to make is we say this stuff and we let it dangle, right? Like we're not going to control how you guys think about a film, but it gives you something to think about. That's kind of the point. Invoke a bit of thought, invoke a bit of discussion, debate amongst the community in that. And then you guys can go off and make your own opinions. We're not going to force our opinions down your throats. We're just going to give you stuff to think about. So I don't think any of us are being negative for the sake of being negative. It's the discussion that we're having, right? So I just want to put that out there. But I think walking into this, I felt I was going to say a B, but I think I'm going to land on a B minus for this one. Just after a discussion and some thought about some of the development and that, I think a B minus is a solid grade for this one. So I'm going to leave it there.
Yeah. For me, this one, with the stoic characters and the way they built the movie, there's a lot of issues, and it can be a bit of a slog to get through. But at the same time, there is an artistry and there is a humanity to it that I think very much transcends a bunch of movies within the MCU. And for that, it's got to get points for me. And so, like, I gave Venom a C last time we were on, but I'm going to bump that one down to a C minus. And I think this one deserves the C, where it's by no means bad, but I hate to do this, but it's a better than average MCU movie, but it falls short when you compare it to just other films.
Mm-hmm.
And to be quite honest with you, to go back to Troy's first point, that is how Marvel Studios positioned this movie. This was our Oscar movie. This is our high caliber director. And this is where we take that step forward and where we're going to go head to head with like DC doing the Joker movie and with stuff like Dune and all these kind of things. And you couldn't keep your fingers out of the pie, and this is what you get. So, yeah, it's a solid C. Like, I think it's worth the watch. Is it something to go see in theaters? I don't know. Am I sold on more movies? Like, these Celestials, unless the Jacksons from the Can You Feel It video are coming to fight these guys, I'm out. But but if that goes down, like if Jackie Jackson is going to be thrown down with Airsham, like in the Can You Feel It, sign me up.
Talk about setting a high bar for yourself.
I'm there.
I'm not gonna enjoy anything unless this. I love it though.
I want the Jacksons.
But yeah, that's where we're at. And like Timbo said, this is definitely one you gotta see for yourself. And maybe our review will. I don't think we hammered on anything. Like we saw issues and we kind of talked about them, kind of thing. But yeah, there's no dogpiling here, and we kind of set you up to maybe set your expectations, so maybe you enjoy it more than we did, because the tea leaves were a little muddy this time heading into the theater. But yeah, there we go, gentlemen. That'll be it for our review of The Eternals. Ian, it was an absolute pleasure having you here for the first time of many. And everybody's got to go check out what this guy is pumping on to our video space with the Instagram and especially the YouTube. The Killer Mafex Ben Reilly Spider-Man review that is up right now. Much like Troy, the only negative is that you've scared me away from doing any video content because you just crushed it, brother.
No, thanks. Thank you so much, man. Like, it's been, I mean, this is, of course, my first appearance, but this is definitely going to be one of those ones to remember. It's a big moment for me. Just hanging out with you guys is, something special, and, super stoked, super happy that this is going to be a regular thing. So, yeah, so happy to be part of the team, part of the family. And, it's been an absolutely amazing year for me. I've been stuck away from my family, living in a foreign country, which, it's tough. And I can honestly say I've actually really had a good year, a great year actually, just because of the Nerd Room, because of the community that you've introduced me to the great friends I've made through that community, and it's been an absolute pleasure. To be part of this team now is man, it's amazing, dream come true. So thank you so much, and yeah, it's been a blast, it's been a fun time. And I look forward to the next one.
Excellent. And because I don't have it all memorized, despite probably 50, 60, 70...
Over 100 episodes now, man.
Timbo, take us home, brother.
All right. If you'd like to be a bigger part of this Eternals conversation, you can always email us at thenerdroom@gmail.com. You can find everything we do over at thenerdroom.net. The hunt is real, and it's over on Instagram. You can find everything that we're finding and discovering, both in stores and online, over there. Twitter, you can find Ian and us discussing all sorts of Eternals. Disney Plus Day coming up here in a few short days, guys. Friday, we're going to get some Star Wars content, some MCU content, some Disney content. It's going to be a lot of fun next week to break that down. And so, yeah, make sure you go follow us over on Twitter and YouTube. Like Carlos said, we're building that content. We're committing ourselves to maybe at least one video drop a week between a few of us here, and so we're gonna build that. So go over there and subscribe and like and do all that YouTube-y stuff over there that you need to get us bumped up a little bit more there, so we can continue to pump these videos out. Both figure reviews, unboxings, gaming reviews, Nerd Room tours, all these type of things are going to be up there. So go check that out, and at a minimum, give us a subscribe. And so with all of that being said, Ian, thank you, like Carlos said, so much for coming on. We can't wait to your next appearance. And with all that being said, for the Nerd Room, I'm Tim.
I'm Troy.
I'm a giraffe.
And I'm Ian.
And thank you guys so much for entering the Nerd Room. This has been a Nerd Room podcast production. You can find our hosts Tim, Troy, Sanjay, and Carlos on Twitter at TheNerdRM, TroyTheBoy87, Sanjabi, and CDN Caped Crusade R. For more content from the Nerd Room, check out thenerdroom.net. And don't forget to subscribe to the Nerd Room on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or wherever you plug in. Use the hashtag WeTheNerd to keep up with the latest from the Nerd Room on Instagram and Twitter.